Guys, I did it again. Last year I forgot about my journaling anniversary, and this year I did the same thing. I forgot about it until I saw a couple comments today, and a couple of my subscribers, shout out to you guys, wished me a happy 15th year journal anniversary. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot again. This is such a big milestone. Now that I've remembered, I did want to commemorate this moment by filming a little video, 15 things that I've learned from 15 years of journaling. So I'm filming this on November 4th, 2023, which is my actual 15-year anniversary of journaling. You're gonna be seeing it tomorrow for me, which will be November 5th, because I'm gonna try to edit it all tonight. Originally, I was planning on uploading a week of my life, but I'm just gonna push that back an extra week. I started journaling 15 years ago on November 4th, 2008, when I was only 6 years old. I'm now 21. I've been journaling for over 2/3 of my life. I started daily journaling when I was 14 though, so I've been daily journaling for like a third of my life. In all of those years, I have filled up 24 whole journals. I'm currently on my 25th journal, this one right here. The things I learned are in no particular order. These also are not like the 15 biggest things per se. I feel like there's the first 15 things that came to my mind. I've learned a whole lot. So hopefully you can either relate to some of this, or you can be inspired to maybe start journaling if you haven't started already. Or maybe this can also just be encouraging to you if you're kind of in a journaling rut, and you can be reminded of why journaling is so amazing. The first thing I wanted to talk about is how you're not your past self, obviously. But I feel like journaling has really emphasized this to me. We are constantly changing so much, and having most of my life written down really just shows me how much you grow and change throughout your lifetime. Every time I finish a new journal, I kind of like to flip through everything that I had written in that journal, and it usually takes me like anywhere from 3 to 6 months for the most part to start and finish a journal. And even in that just small amount of time, it is so wild to see how much can change in such a short time period. Obviously, I've always been me, but there are so many different versions of myself, I feel like, that I have written down. I feel like you can look back on pictures of yourself and be like, oh my gosh, I looked so different. But when you go back and read what your first person perspective was at an age long ago, or even just like a couple months ago, it can just be so eye-opening at how quickly we change and develop as people. Also, it's really easy to look back and be embarrassed at old journal entries, and that introduces kind of a personal struggle sometimes. But at the same time, having that recognition of that's no longer who you are, it in some ways kind of helps me accept who I am now, because you can track that growth throughout your time of journaling and be proud of the growth that you've made, and instead look back and be like, wow, I'm glad I'm not that kind of person anymore, and almost kind of like separate yourself from that version of yourself, rather than thinking that your past always defines exactly who you are right now. The next thing I want to talk about is your memory. I'm sure you've heard it before, but writing can really help improve your memory. I've had a ton of people say that I remember a lot of the details and little things, and honestly, I really think it's because I journal about it. I normally don't have a great memory, but if I write it down, I'm not gonna forget it, or I'm not likely to forget it. When you're writing at the end of the day, or whenever you're writing, you're performing active recall, and that helps you remember things. But also, you're not gonna remember every single thing that you've ever written about, obviously, because that's just like impossible, but it's still there, physically written down on paper, so it can help your memory in the sense that you can go back and reread things that you've forgotten about, and then it jogs your memory of things that you wouldn't have remembered otherwise, which is so cool. It is just the coolest feeling to go back and see something that you've written down a long time ago and just have that like, oh yeah, I forgot about that, like have that moment. That is just so cool, and then you can share it with other people and be like, wow, I don't remember writing this, but I guess this happened. So it helps with your like active memory in your day-to-day, I feel like, but also it helps you remember the past as well. It kind of exercises your brain and really like helps with that neuroplasticity and everything. Another thing it's really helped me with is being a stronger writer. Listen, I know writing is not everybody's favorite thing in the world, especially when it comes to like academic writing, which journaling is nothing like that. You know, journaling is very different from writing academically for school or something like that. The first time I realized though that journaling was helpful with strengthening my writing was actually in like 8th grade, I think it was, and we were learning about like sentence structure and things like that. And when I went home to journal those nights, when I had been like learning about that stuff in school, I remember being mindful of my comma placement, or being able to like point out what part of my sentence was like the independent versus dependent clause, and just kind of like knowing that, like, it was kind of cool to just be aware of that, even though it was like not the most exciting thing to learn about in school. But because of that, I felt like I was able to like practice it more. Now, don't get me wrong, I definitely don't have these like perfectly written journal entries all the time. My grammar is not always correct, and there are many times that I have run on sentences. Also, I do remember after like every summer at the start of a new school year, so many people would be like, oh my gosh, I haven't written all summer, like I don't remember how to write. And they would say like it feels weird to be like writing, like their handwriting would feel weird. And I never felt that way, because I would be journaling the whole summer, practicing my writing. Obviously it wasn't with the intentions of practicing my writing, but I was writing every single day. So when we got back to the start of the school year and I started writing again, it didn't feel weird. I feel like just having more practice with language and forming sentences in my day-to-day life has really strengthened my ability to write a sentence, a paragraph, form an essay, just because I'm more familiar with like the written version of language. Not that I'm like this amazing writer or anything, but I do think that it has strengthened my writing as well as my handwriting too, with all of that practice and exposure to slowing down and putting my thoughts to paper. Self-accountability is one of the biggest things that I love that journaling has taught me. If you write something down one day saying, I'm going to go to the gym every single day this week, at least for me, I'm much more likely to follow through with that, because I'm either going to have to do it and then write the success story, or I'm gonna have to go back and tell my journal and be like, I didn't go to the gym every day this week, or I avoid writing about it, which then like you have that own personal like feeling like of, I could have been better, I should have done that. Sometimes I'll even like set goals for myself. Like if I'm trying to wake up earlier, I'll write it down in my journal and be like, I'm gonna wake up at 5 a.m. tomorrow and I'm gonna journal first thing in the morning, and I write the time at the start of all of my entries. So that's my version of holding myself accountable, because I will be able to see, did I wake up and start writing at 5 in the morning and start my day like I said I would. It's helped me build a lot of trust with myself, especially because I do journal every day. Even if you don't journal every day, like if you tell your journal, oh, I'm gonna journal like next week or something like that, and then a month later you're like, whoops, I'm finally sitting down and journaling. It's like a way of calling yourself out. And what I love about it is it's like a safe place to perform self-accountability, because obviously you're the only person that is reading your journal. Hopefully there's nobody's reading your journal, but like you're the only person that's gonna know whether or not you failed at what you set your mind to, what you told yourself you were gonna do. So I feel like it has that safety net of knowing like the only person to judge you is yourself if you don't follow through with what you're saying. And I feel like it's helped me like get to know myself more in my journaling, so I hold myself to a higher standard, my word and what I say to a higher standard, because of that environment that you have with yourself in your journal. In that same vein, it also helps with self-discipline as well as just consistency in general. This is specifically for daily journaling, what I've learned from that. There are so many days that I do not want to journal. So many days. 15 years of journaling and almost 7 years of daily journaling. As much as I love journaling, I don't always want to write, especially when I'm really tired or really busy. It can be really hard. It can be really not fun. But going off of the accountability thing that we just talked about, it forces you to have discipline if you're trying to hold yourself accountable. When I first told myself that I was going to start journaling every single day for a whole year back in 2017 when I started daily journaling, I really had to stay disciplined in order to reach that goal. Now it's definitely much more of a habit, but again, there are so many days I don't want to write, so I still have to have that discipline. A lot of people ask me, how do you have the motivation to keep writing? And it's like, I don't. There are so many days I don't want to journal. I don't have that motivation. And you can find motivation online from friends, journal buddies, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to discipline. When you set your mind to something, you're going to do it. And that's how you build trust with yourself. If you tell yourself you're going to journal and then you don't, you lose trust with yourself. If you write in your journal that you're going to do something and then you don't, you lose trust with yourself. Having that discipline to follow through with what you say is how you regain trust with yourself, which ultimately leads to a greater self-confidence. It also really helps expand your creativity. So it kind of does this in a couple different ways. Going off of what we were just talking about, when you journal every single day, or not even necessarily every day, if you just journal for some time, eventually you're gonna have writer's block. That's where the creativity really steps in, when you don't know what to write. It's not just when you have like a brain full of all of these amazing ideas of things to write, but when you don't know what to write and you have to really stretch your brain to come up with something, even if you're writing about the just most mundane things ever, you're pushing your brain to do more than it wants to do. You are really pulling out that creative juices. Even if there's like hardly anything in there, it really forces you to be a little bit creative, to stretch your mind. And then also, if you do artsy things in your journal like I do, I like to do a lot of hand lettering and coloring and drawings and things like that. That also helps expand your creativity. Recently I did a month of color video where I showed how I used color in my journal entries for an entire month. That helped expand my creativity so much because I did not have a plan of what I was going to do every single day, so it really challenged me to kind of think outside of the box, to do things that I hadn't really done before in my journaling. And I've actually kept up with that. So it's November 4th now, and ever since August 1st when I did that month of color challenge, I've been still keeping up with having color in my journal entry, which has really added this huge level of creativity. Even if it's nothing special, even if it's literally me just like underlining some words in a different color, it still is just a really fun way to grow in my creativity. Journaling also helps you have a more organized mind. I feel like it really kind of just gives you like this mental structure. When you have to write down your thoughts, the act of clearing out your thoughts, having that mental clarity and like practicing that, to have to then write it down and translate your thoughts to words on a page, that's not always easy to do. But making your thoughts tangible on paper, it helps you kind of like sort through everything and organize them and categorize them. And honestly, it just like helps me keep track of everything on my mind. And it's not just while you're writing that you have a more organized mind. I feel like in my day-to-day, because I'm used to sorting through my thoughts when writing things down each day, it helps me kind of navigate my thoughts when I'm doing literally anything just throughout the day. I'm not always perfect at it, of course. Sometimes my mind feels like a pinball machine, but even when it does, I feel like it's a lot easier to kind of track that pinball and like see where it's going at all times. It definitely takes time to learn, and again, I'm not perfect at it, but it has really strengthened my ability to just kind of organize through all of the many thoughts flooding in my brain. One of my most favorite things about journaling is that it captures your evolution as an individual, and that's really taught me how precious our memories are. It is so cool to have my life written down on paper from 6 years old to now, almost my whole life written down. There are countless memories that I have written down on hundreds and hundreds of pages, probably even thousands at this point. To be able to see how my handwriting has changed over time, how my grammar and vocabulary has changed over time, how my dreams and goals have evolved, how my perspectives on myself have changed over the years, the things that are most important to me, how that's changed. It is just so wild to be able to directly reflect on how I've grown as a person. It's not just like a thinking back to who I used to be, but it's literally an immediate resource that I can go back and track my growth with. And it makes me just so much more grateful for who I am now and the journey that it's taken to get to where I am. I feel like it helps me have a lot of grace with my younger self as well, because I can look back and be like, oh my gosh, why did I do that? Why did I say that? Why did I think that? But then I can go back and actually read what I was writing and thinking and feeling at the time and be like, oh, that's why I did, because it was important to me at the time. And even if it isn't now, you can realize that it was then for that past version of yourself. And also, just how special is it to be able to have those memories? I have a little journal entry on my 7th birthday. That is so cute and that is so cool. I have some of the most incredible moments of my life documented, and that is just beyond special. I also have some of the most embarrassing things written down as well, but you know, that just is a part of it. We're human, and that's what's great about journaling, is that it shows it all. It's an honest, raw, real depiction of who you are as a human being, that we are flawed people. We are not perfect, and that's okay. The next thing is something that I feel quite strongly about. Have you ever heard someone say that you become the 5 people that you surround yourself with the most? If you hang out with people that go out all the time, you're much more likely to do that. Whereas if you hang out with people that stay in all the time, you're more likely to stay in and not go out. We adapt to the people that are around us. Even just like the slang that you use, if your friends or family say certain things, you're gonna pick up on that. Or even like laughs. I've noticed that people's laughs kind of like morph into each other's sometimes if they hang out with each other a lot. When it comes to journaling, I feel like it can be quite similar, not with the laughter or anything, but you become what you write. So on the very first page of this journal, I always write like a little quote or something, a little artsy fartsy thing on the cover page of my journals. For this one, I just said 25th journal, nothing special. But on the second page, I did the quote, and if you can see that, it says, what you focus on expands, and then some other stuff down here. But what you focus on expands. That I just love. And that's so true, because if you are focusing and writing about all of these negative things in your life, then you're gonna be living a very sad life. You're going to be focused on those negative things, and then tomorrow you're gonna wake up feeling sad, and then you're gonna be writing more about sad things, and it's just gonna be like this feedback loop of these like negative things. Whereas if you are focusing on the good and you're writing down what you're grateful for and actually focusing on that and not just going through the motions of writing it down because you're trying to like do it, then that's what's going to expand. And that's the kind of person that you're going to become, because you're training your mind to think in that way. What you tell yourself and what you think about is so transformative to who you become, and when you physically write it down, it has that same effect. Obviously, I'm not always writing about sunshines and rainbows and happy things all the time, and like what I'm grateful for. I definitely have my times where I write about things that I'm really upset about or whatever. I'm not always super positive in my journal because it's a safe space to be whatever you want and to write about those negative things if you want to work through the things that you're stressed out about. But I do try to be mindful of how I'm writing about that, what words I'm using, or even just like the length of time that I continue writing about negative things. I don't want to be doing that every single day. You can notice if you've been writing about some negative things for quite some time, and then maybe try to make a change, because it definitely affects who you become and how you feel just living your life. Journaling also reveals what's most important to you. There are so many different things that you can write about in your day. You can write about what you ate for breakfast, what's going on around you, the people you talked to, what those interactions were like, what you're thinking about for the next day, things on your to-do list, the best part of your day, the worst part of your day, a certain person you're crushing on, a certain friend that's really bothering you, something you're really concerned about, someone in your family, your thoughts on what's happening in the world, your dreams for the future, a past experience that's really keeping you up at night. Whatever you write about it because it's something that's important to you, for the most part. There are definitely days where I write about like the most nonsensical things that really don't matter to me, but overall, you can notice trends in what you're choosing to write about, because you can't write about everything. You, for the most part, will write about the things that really matter most to you, and when you continue to do that over time, you can notice trends of what you are writing about the most, what you're writing about the least, and what you're not even writing about at all, and that can really just give you some insight on the things that you are focusing on the most, what matters to you the most, and you can kind of reflect on that and maybe kind of recognize why you aren't writing about certain things, what you're trying to avoid, what maybe you're not wanting to face at the moment, or if you're focusing on certain things too much or too little. It can just kind of make you more aware of the things that are most important to you, and maybe make a shift if you feel necessary. It also teaches you to slow down your mind. So I have a whole video on this where I titled it something like, watch this if journaling is too slow for you. So I won't go too in depth here since I talk a lot about it there, but in today's society, we are just so fast paced with all of the technology, and that's a big reason why a lot of people don't want to journal, because they feel like their thoughts can't keep up with the writing. But when you force yourself to sit down and slow down and breathe and think through all of those thoughts in your head and dissect through them all and choose the words that you're wanting to write down and transferring your thoughts from your brain onto the paper, that really makes you slow down your mind. I feel like this is something that is super relevant in today's world, and it's honestly helped me kind of control all of my anxieties and my worries. Not that I'm perfect at it, but being able to kind of slow down through my writing just helps me feel a lot more grounded. Going back to what we said about being just like familiar with the use of language and the written language, I feel like it's really helped me be a stronger communicator. When you are more in tune with your emotions, your feelings, what you're thinking about, just through practicing writing about it, and even just the use of words and language in general, it really helps you identify the words you want to use when speaking to somebody else. And a lot of the times, if I'm wanting to talk about something really important with somebody, if I've already written written about it, then I've pretty much already like rehearsed how I'm feeling about it, what words I want to say. And because it's helped me learn how to slow down my mind as well, it kind of helps me be more present when I am speaking so that I can think through it more in the moment actively instead of just having those jumbled up thoughts and everything all the time. If you practice anything a lot, you're going to make improvements. So when you're journaling, obviously you're putting your thoughts onto paper, but when you're talking to somebody, you're still getting those thoughts out. And so if you're used to getting them out and writing them down, it's much easier, at least for me, to get them out and talk about my feelings, or even just like presenting information. It just flows out more easily. Because journaling has strengthened my just overall self-awareness, I feel like it's also made me a lot more compassionate towards myself. Journaling in itself is a form of self-acknowledgement. It's a form of self-expression. And when you do this, you're becoming more aware of who you are. And when you know that you are constantly evolving, that you're not necessarily the person that you used to be a month ago, a year ago, several years ago, it just makes it a lot easier to give yourself grace, to have that compassion towards yourself and understanding that you're not perfect and that that's okay. You have to be careful with this though, because obviously if you've written about something that's like really embarrassing or something that you regret writing about, it's really easy to just be disappointed in yourself or really embarrassed or frustrated or anything like that. But what's cool about journaling is that there's a finite amount of journal entries that you've written, but there are endless amount of pages that you can still fill. So even if there's something in a past journal entry that you're not too proud of, you have so many more opportunities to write and to continue changing. And I feel like just having that mindset and the overall just self-awareness that journaling helps you harness and have is just so great for having that compassion with who you are, who you once were, and who you're gonna become. I honestly feel like if every single person journaled, they would become a better person. Like, I just feel like this world would be a better place if everybody journaled. I am not a perfect person by any means at all, but I think I would be a lot crazier if I didn't journal. It has helped keep me very sane through a lot of hard times. It has helped me strengthen my mind in a lot of ways that I didn't have before. And just like all of the things that we've already talked about in this video, I don't think I would have that if it wasn't for journaling. I owe a lot of my self-growth to journaling, and I feel like if everybody did it and slowed down their minds a little bit and learned to be more compassionate with themselves and more mindful of themselves and others and the things that they write about and all those things, I feel like the world would be a little bit better of a place. Maybe I'm biased. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about is that there are no wrong ways and no right ways to journal. That is honestly like my biggest rule to journaling. A lot of people come to me and are always like, how do I start? What do I do? And there are lots of like tips and structures that I can give to you or that you can find online or from other people. But at the end of the day, it's what you make of it. You can make rules if you want in order to just like help give yourself structure or to help give yourself that means of discipline and consistency to help you with that. But at the end of the day, there's no rules. That really is just helpful in creating and adapting journaling to being something that you can really use to be beneficial for you. If you're somebody that really needs journaling to be a creative outlet, then you can use a whole bunch of different colors and drawings and things like that. If you just want to use journaling as a way to get your thoughts out of your head, you can just do a whole bunch of stream of consciousness journaling and not even think about what you're saying before you're writing it out. You can write lists, you can write down your favorite song lyrics, you can write down memories. You don't have to follow the lines. You can write really big, you can write in different fonts, you can use different pen colors, you can write about your memories or what you want to do tomorrow or what you did yesterday or your dreams for the future. You can work through insecurities that you might have. You can use it to benefit yourself in whatever ways that you need, so you can really adapt it to a version that's most suitable for you. Let me know how long you have been journaling for, because it is just wild to me that the time is flying as quickly as it is. But I'm very grateful that I have all of that time written down. The experiences and things that I've had during the past 15 years, I have that written down. Obviously not everything, but the ones that I do, which is quite a lot of them, it's something that I truly cherish to have. It just gives me a lot to be grateful for. So if you enjoyed today's video, give it a thumbs up, and I will be uploading that week in my life video next week. Hope you all are having a great day, and yeah, thanks for watching.